Imagine a child's hug. Imagine their smiles, their laughter, their first words. Imagine all that fading away. Imagine a child unable to reach out and communicate with those who love him most. This is autism, and it affects 55 new children a day. Cure Autism Now is teaming up with Checkers and Rallies to fund essential medical research. So visit your local Checkers or Rallies today and help us bring those children back.
I am autism. I'm visible in your children, but if I can help it, I am invisible to you until it's too late. I know where you live, and guess what? I live there too. I hover around all of you. I know no color barrier, no religion, no morality, no currency. I speak your language fluently, and with every voice I take away, I acquire yet another language. I work very quickly. I work faster than pediatric AIDS, cancer, and diabetes combined. And if you are happily married, I will make sure that your marriage fails. Your money will fall into my hands, and I will bankrupt you for my own self-gain. I don't sleep, so I make sure you don't either. I will make it virtually impossible for your family to easily attend a temple, a birthday party, a public park, without a struggle, without embarrassment, without pain. You have no cure for me. Your scientists don't have the resources, and I relish their desperation. Your neighbors are happier to pretend that I don't exist, of course, until it's their child. I am autism. I have no interest in right or wrong. I derive great pleasure out of your loneliness. I will fight to take away your hope. I will plot to rob you of your children and your dreams. I will make sure that every day you wake up, you will cry, wondering who will take care of my child after I die. And the truth is, I am still winning, and you are scared, and you should be. I am autism. You ignored me. That was a mistake.
And to autism I say,
I am a father,
a mother,
a grandparent,
a brother,
a sister.
We will spend every waking hour trying to weaken you.
We don't need sleep because we will not rest until you do.
Family can be much stronger than autism ever anticipated, and we will not be intimidated by you, nor will the love and strength of my community.
I am a parent riding towards you, and you can push me off this horse time and time again, but I will get up, climb back on, and ride on with the message.
Autism, you forget who we are. You forget who you are dealing with. You forget the spirit of mothers and daughters and fathers and sons.
We are
the United Kingdom.
United States.
We are Argentina.
We are Russia.
The European Union.
We are the United Nations.
We are coming together in all climates.
We call on all faiths. We search with technology
And voodoo.
prayer and
Herbs, genetic studies,
And a growing awareness you never anticipated.
We have had challenges, but we are the best when overcoming them.
we speak the only language that matters, love for our children.
Our capacity to love is greater than your capacity to overwhelm.
Autism is naive.
you are alone.
We are a community of warriors.
We have a voice.
You think because some of our children cannot speak, we cannot hear them? That is autism's weakness.
You think that because my child lives behind a wall, I am afraid to knock it down with my bare hands?
You have not properly been introduced to this community of parents and grandparents, of siblings and friends and school teachers, therapists, pediatricians and scientists.
Autism, if you are not scared, you should be.
When you came for my child, you forgot.
You came for me.
Autism, are you listening?
Unusual turn of events, both sides clash ideologically. The conflict played out publicly earlier today during the Portland Walk Now for Autism. Dozens of people showed up in the South Park block this morning for the fundraiser. The organization called Autism Speaks puts on the event in cities across the nation every year. However, another autism awareness group protested the walk, saying Autism Speaks has an unethical ad campaign. Portland's chapter of the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network says Autism Speaks portrays people with the condition as a burden instead of promoting understanding and acceptance.
The I Am Autism video called us a burden on society, and that is very very damaging for autistic people who are trying to be integrated into society, trying to find jobs, trying to form relationships. We don't want people to be scared of it.
One of Autism Speaks co-founders says ad campaigns have been enormously successful, with a 25% increase in autism awareness among the general public.
Hey there, this is Eve Ryland with Wake, Bake, Caffeinate, and we're going to take a dive down into some autistic history here to May 17th, 2006. On this day, Autism Speaks published a press release titled Autism Speaks and Grasp to exchange articles of understanding. Now, this was a press release about the conflict they created with autistic people over their use of the word cure in regards to autism and their mission goal. So the controversy being specifically addressed in this statement was one that erupted between Autism Speaks and GRASP. And GRASP stands for Global Regional Asperger Syndrome Partnership. And this happened, of course, back in 2006. So Autism Speaks, of course, as we know, is a parent-led organization. And GRASP, and I didn't know this until finding this press release in the archives, was the largest organization with autistic adults. Again, back in 2006. Their status now I am not aware of. So they were going to post these articles of understanding these statements in an attempt to spark a substantive, am I saying it right? Substantive? Okay, substantive, okay. We're going to post these statements in an attempt to spark a substantive and mutually respectful dialogue about why they differ on using the word cure. So it would take Autism Speaks actually until 2016 to remove the word cure from their mission statement and marketing messages. But back in 2006, when these articles of understanding were actually published, and I have a copy on the Deconstruction of Autism Speaks series under the GRASP headline. Anyhow, I included in there both letters that were published after that press release, and one here that was written for Autism Speaks was written by Alison Singer. Now, Alison Singer is well known in the autistic community for some of the very awful statements of murder-suicide about their child back during this era for a documentary that she was helping to create for Autism Speaks. I believe it was... Anyhow, I'm going to read this in full for you. From the very headline where it starts, it only gets worse from there. So this is a trigger warning, a content notice, everything awful and stigmatizing and ableist and eugenics and definitely othering, condescending, and just ugh. It's awful. It's awful. It's awful. I've tried actually recording this a few times. This is going to be my last attempt because this is just awful. But, so just a warning, feel free to tap out now and take self-care and just avoid the whole hot mess here. Or at any point going forward, this is really, really awful. I can't tell you that enough. All right. And please, obviously, take time for self-care afterwards because I just know how much it triggers me. And oh boy. All right. So let's just move on to the letter. Hopefully I've done the warning justice. I'm not sure. So, Articles of Understanding. This one is by Alison Singer, who was Senior Vice President of Autism Speaks at the time of this writing in 2006. The headline here says, "Cure is not a 4-letter word." I'm just going to let you sit with that for a moment. Cure. Cure is not a four-letter word, by Alison Singer, Senior Vice President of Autism Speaks. And this was published sometime in 2006. So, going forward, my daughter Lauren, a typically developing child, has a wonderful dynamic friend named Haley, who has been diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. While Haley is the best reader in the second grade and can argue circles around the school principal, it is gut-wrenching to watch her struggle in school every day. She cannot keep friends and is often all alone on the playground during recess. She is prone to violent outbursts and is generally unable to function in her classroom without one-to-one support. Sometimes the kids, and quite honestly her teacher, seem afraid of her. Her mother suffers every day along with Haley as she wards off the pressure to administer medications that might calm the unruly disruptive behaviors but might also extinguish the brilliant light that has helped Haley excel academically. Haley has a personality and a mind all her own. If she were my daughter, I would be similarly loath to squash it. Haley needs a lot of support and understanding, but she doesn't need to be cured. Lauren's older sister, Jody, shares the same DSM-4 diagnosis as Haley, but Jody has classic autism, which falls on the other end of the autism spectrum from Asperger syndrome. Oh, myth. While I have often marveled at Haley's rhetorical skills and quick wit, Jody struggles to simply string two words together with any communicative intent. Many days it is hard to believe that the challenges Haley faces with regard to her Asperger syndrome and those Jody struggles with are related under the same DSM-4 diagnosis. At one end of the spectrum, we often find lower functioning persons, their words, of course, like my daughter, who cannot speak, have violent tantrums, and can be self-injurious. While at the other end, we have persons who struggle with very significant but very different, predominantly social issues. Too wide a spectrum. I am sure a lot of thought went into the decision to include Asperger's syndrome as one of the autism spectrum disorders. On a scholarly level, I understand that Asperger's syndrome is an expression of the extreme social deficits that characterize all those on the spectrum. Also, I am certainly glad that persons, my gosh, this person first language is atrocious to say out loud, with Asperger's syndrome are becoming able to access support and services if they feel they need them. Oh, that's not condescending at all. But the differing abilities of persons with Asperger's syndrome are nothing like my daughter's autism. And here we start the not like my child argument the autistic community is so familiar with all these years. So when we at Autism Speaks use the word cure, we are most often focused on people at the lower end of the spectrum. I have not met a person with Asperger's syndrome who seemed anything like my daughter. None of these persons, however, has ever met my daughter because it is so hard to take her out of the house. It is hard to consider her differently abled because she is not abled. Oh, that one still just takes my breath away. I'm trying. It is hard to consider her differently abled, in quotes, because she is not, in quotes, abled. Okay. She is sweet and loving and works harder than anyone I know, but she does not have any areas of strengths that I fear squashing through medication, intervention, or cure. Oh, boy. Without her medication, she cries almost constantly during the day and can't sleep at night. She has frequent seizures. She cannot tell me when she is in pain or where it hurts. She puts everything in her mouth unless it is food. At age 9, her favorite game is still this little piggy. Thankfully, recently, she has learned to use words to name items she wants and needs, and this has dramatically reduced her violent tantrums. She has benefited greatly from behavioral therapy and from Risperidol and Depakote, but she has a long, long way to go. She has a neurological order that responds to antipsychotic medication. Her pain is heartbreaking, and I pray every day for a cure. That's right out of I Am Autism Speaks video, isn't it? And I pray every day for a cure. I do not use the word cure to insult other people on the spectrum. I use it because it accurately conveys my hope that one day her constant struggles will end and she will know a different, pain-free life. Use of the word cure holds particular meaning to parents whose children suffer regressive autism. These parents, I often feel, suffer the most as they had a glimpse of their children before autism. These parents seek a cure because they remember the child they had and want him back. Autism Speaks constituency tends to be dominated by parents of lower functioning children because many parents of children who are diagnosed as high functioning enough to be mainstream do not want to be associated with autism because of the stigma that is still attached to the disorder and for fear that their children will suffer from the label. Thus, our community does tend to be dominated by the faction of parents in search of a cure. For this reason, much of our community struggles with the portrayal of basketball star Jason McElwain as the poster child for autism. My daughter can't carry on an impromptu conversation with the press the way Jason did. She can't make a basket. She can't throw the ball. She couldn't sit still to watch the Teen Choice Awards, and I dare say she'll probably never receive one. Jason is a hero for all he has accomplished. But we knew there was a but coming in here, didn't we? The kids who struggle to learn to count, use a fork, and say I love you are equally heroic. That's quite the comparison. I'm gonna help you out a little bit here. You shouldn't feel too terrible about the Teen Choice Awards because almost every teenager alive since then and at that time and every time in between, almost every single teenager in the world is not going to receive a Teen Choice Award. So welcome to the club of none of us got one of those for our children, autistic and non-autistic. All right, so let's move forward before I completely lose my shit. Oh boy, I'm gonna pause and smoke. Hold on. All right, let's get going. Next section with the subhead is titled Asperger's Spectrum Disorder? ? A good deal of the furor over the word cure may be the result of confusing autism with autism spectrum disorder. Oh, we're going to get a lecture on autism from the lady who titled her paper, Hope or Cure is not a 4-letter word. Hello, you already failed Autism 101 before you even got to the first sentence of this essay, right? So let's go ahead and see what else is being said. There are 5 diseases that fall under the autism spectrum disorder umbrella, one of which is autism. One of the 5, Rett syndrome, has its own advocacy community. The gene that triggers Rut's has been identified, and yet the Rut's community does not protest when we say we do not yet know the genes that trigger autism, because they are aware we are speaking of autism and not all of the autism spectrum disorders. Good grief. She's trying to speak like a lawyer? Can you hear the ishing in this? This is just something else. All right. When Asperger syndrome groups use the term Asperger, it is clear that they are talking about. When Asperger syndrome groups use the term Asperger, it is clear what they are talking about. When autism organizations use the word autism, it is often unclear whether we are talking about autism or the entire spectrum, including Asperger syndrome. Most of the time, we are talking about autism. All right, if you can make heads or tails of that, that was a whole lot of talking without saying what you actually mean directly, a whole paragraph of it. If someone could tell me what that actually means, in plain English, very direct speak, I'm sure it can be boiled down to a single sentence, right? So, moving forward, but for whatever reason, all 5 disorders, whatever reason, all 5 disorders are placed together under one diagnosis because the similarities between them are greater than the differences. And again, that sentence is so speaking, But for whatever reason, I have no idea why all 5 disorders are placed together under one diagnosis. And here's the reason. Because the similarities between them are greater than the differences. So how do you not know the reason and then know the reason in the same sentence? What? So perhaps we could take a lesson from the other disease advocacy organizations. Well, guess what? Autism is not a disease. There are many different diseases that fall under the umbrella cancer. Again, autism is not a disease. Autism is not at all like cancer. But no one argues that the intervention for leukemia should be the same as for brain cancer. Apples and oranges much. No one says that bone marrow research is insulting because it doesn't serve the needs of persons with brain tumors. Whoa, this is starting to sound like the conspiracy stuff. What? What? Okay, I have no idea what we're supposed to take away from that, but a bunch of gaslighting, and I still am not sure because they never directly made a point. All right, so here we go. The next headline. Subhead is hope is not a 4-letter word. I mean, really, just from the headline on, does not understand autistic people at all. Oh, at Autism Speaks, we are committed to bringing a voice to all who struggle with any type of autism spectrum disorder. So you're here to help all of us, but you're not. Okay, I'm confused. But I've been confused for a while. Our goal is to do this by funding science that will find new treatments and, yes, ultimately, we hope, a cure for autism. Not all autism, just autism, not your autism, a different kind of autism. But I can't quite define exactly where that autism lies, right? Yeah, so in fact, in our last round of grants, we funded several projects focused on Asperger syndrome and high-functioning autism. You want a brownie button for that? All right, we appreciate that persons with Asperger syndrome have different needs than persons with lower-functioning autism, but we all need more options and new opportunities. Platitudes and a bunch of words that still don't really say much. Our hope is not to alienate, but to unite in order to bring greater awareness of autism spectrum disorders to the public at large, and thereby greatly increase public funding and private donations for treatment and research, increase access to services, and reduce the stigma that is still associated with autism spectrum disorders. By shining a strong spotlight on autism spectrum disorders, we can create a brighter future for all those who are affected. Absolutely some of the most circular speaking I have heard since, well, I don't know. That's saying a lot. This is 2021. We're kind of really have gone the way of the Tiger King documentary on circular speaking, but this still is like, wow, even in 2021. So, fuck, that's a 4-letter word. Just say what you fucking mean, right? Straight.